Greetings of peace, everyone. I hope you're feeling great and had recharged from last week's academic break. By the way, I am Asnairah R, the first reporter from Group 11. We will discuss the human reproductive system. My group mates are Michael Jhared Luzon and Hanna Mae Terez, which will thoroughly discuss the male and female reproductive system. And as for me, I will discuss to you the significance and importance of the human reproductive system.
Human reproductive system is not new to us. We have learned about it as early as in elementary, though not explicit enough. It is actually one of the most important organ system in our body, though every organ system are just as important with another. As you all know, the survival of the human population is maintained by reproduction. In order for sexual reproduction to occur, a woman's ovaries produces ova or eggs and a man's testis produces sperm. So after an egg has been fertilized by a sperm, it grows inside the woman's uterus to produce a new human being. At conception, a female egg or ovum is fertilized by a male sperm. The DNA in the head of the sperm enters the ovum to be combined with the DNA in the nucleus of the ovum. So one of the most important function of the human reproductive system is reproduction.
So, human reproductive system produces gametes in gonads for reproduction, and it regulates reproduction and other processes through release of hormones. So, provided that all organs are present, normally constructed and functioning properly, the essential features of human reproduction are: first is the liberation of an ovum or egg at a specific time in the reproductive cycle. Second is the internal fertilization of the ovum by spermatozoa or sperm cells. Third is the transport of the fertilized ovum to the uterus or womb. Fourth is the implantation of the blastocyst or the early embryo developed from the fertilized ovum in the wall of the uterus. Fifth is the formation of a placenta and maintenance of the unborn child during the entire period of gestation. Sixth is the birth of the child and expulsion of the placenta. And seventh is the suckling and care of the child with an eventual return of the maternal organs to virtually their original state.
For this biological process to be carried out, certain organs and structures are required in both the male and the female. The source of the ova or the female germ cells is the female ovary, and that of spermatozoa or the male germ cells is the testis. In females, the two ovaries are situated in the pelvic cavity, while in males, the two testes are enveloped in a sac of skin, the scrotum lying below and outside the abdomen. Besides producing the germ cells or the gametes, the ovaries and testes are the source of hormones that cause full development of secondary sexual characteristics and also the proper functioning of the reproductive tracts. These tracts comprise the fallopian tubes, the uterus, the vagina, and associated structures in females, and the penis, the sperm channels such as epididymis, ductus deferens, and ejaculatory ducts, and other related structures and glands in males. So how does the reproductive organs be developed? So the sex of a child is determined at the time of fertilization of the ovum by the spermatozoa. The differences between a male and a female are genetically determined by the chromosomes that each possesses in the nuclei of the cells. Once the genetic sex has been determined, there normally follows a succession of changes that will result finally in the development of an adult male or female. There is, however, no external indication of the sex of an embryo during the first 8 weeks of its life within the uterus. This is a neutral or indifferent stage during which the sex of an embryo can be ascertained only by examination of the chromosomes in its cells. The precursors of sex cells are the primordial germinal cells that first appear in the yolk sac wall of the embryo at 4 weeks. So by 6 weeks of embryonic life, these germinal cells migrate to the posterior body wall to form cell clumps in the genital reaches, from which the testes and ovaries will develop. Initially, these indifferent gonads have an outer cortex and an inner medulla in both sexes, but after 7 weeks, the testes and ovaries begin to follow separate developmental paths. So we now notice that sex organs are being developed during pregnancy in the embryo. So, at birth, the organs appropriate to each sex have developed and are in their adult positions but are not actually functioning. Various abnormalities can occur during development of sex organs in embryos, leading to hermaphroditism, pseudohermaphroditism, and other chromosomally induced conditions. But during childhood until puberty, there is steady growth in all reproductive organs in a gradual development of activity. Puberty is the secondary sexual characteristics and other. I believe we are all familiar with that and we have experienced that. Puberty marks the onset of increased activity in the sex glands and the steady development of secondary sexual characteristics. The human reproductive system is composed of male and female reproductive system in which both have different roles, different functions, and different structures depending on your sex organ. In male reproductive system, it consists of the testis, epididymis, ductus deferens, accessory glands, and the penis. The paired testes produce sperm cells or spermatozoa, and the male steroid hormone testosterone that produces male secondary sexual characteristics. While in female reproductive system, it consists of paired ovaries for the production of eggs or oocytes and for hormonal regulation of the menstrual cycle and pregnancy, uterine tubes that carry sperm cells towards the oocyte and the newly fertilized zygote down towards the uterus, a uterus for the new embryo to implant and develop into fetus, and external genitalia which protect the entrance to the vagina and provide lubrication during intercourse. So, for about the male and female reproductive system, it will be further discussed and elaborated by my group mates. The structure, its components, and possible diseases will also be discussed.
Good day, everyone. How have you been? I hope that you have been doing well amidst the pandemic. This is Michael Jhared Luzon, and you can call me Kale. I am the second reporter for this group, and I will be the one to report on the male reproductive system. Well, I'm pretty sure that you already have a background on this since we already had tackled this in our grade school, and even in our junior high school and up until now. So, this is just more like a review for us or a recall. So, I hope that things will get easier for you along the way. To start with, the male reproductive system is a network of external and internal organs that function to produce, support, transport, and deliver viable sperm for reproduction. The bottom line here, just to make it short, is that the male reproductive system's function or purpose, as well as its essence, is mainly for the reproduction of our species itself, for our species not to be extinct. And of course, just in addition, for males, it is important because sex or sexual intercourse is part of the physiological needs for us to survive. And just like its definition of having external and internal organs involved, we are now to discuss on its external organ first. Well, just like the term itself, external organs are the organs that lie outside the abdominal cavity or the pelvis, and this includes the penis, the epididymis, the scrotum, and the testicles. First, we have the penis, which is a cylindrical in shape and conveys urine and semen through the urethra. And when erect, it stiffens and enlarges, enabling insertion or penetration into the vagina during sexual intercourse. Well, it is divided into three regions, which is first we have the root, which is the one that attaches the penis to the wall of the abdomen. It involves the bulb and the crura. So here. Next, we have the body. The body is the one that composes the majority of the size and the length of the penis, and it involves a sponge-like erectile tissue, which is called as the corpus spongiosum, which expands during the sexual intercourse. That is why, when it is, of course, being filled with blood. So that is why mo na siyang gitawag sa layman's term nga utog. And second, we have the corpus cavernosa. So here. Lastly, we have the glans as its last region, which is the head of the penis, which is one of those sensitive parts during the penetration. Second, we have the testicles. The testicles are oval organs about the size of a very large olives that lie at the scrotum, and it is being secured by a structure called spermatic cord, and it is the one that's responsible for the generation of the sperms, and the process is called the spermatogenesis. So from here, the sperms here are still immature. Those are not ready for fertilization. However, when they go up to the epididymis, they become mature. Those are ready for fertilization. So epididymis is defined as a long cold tube that rests at the backside of each testicle. And it is again responsible to bring the sperm to maturity. And it is during the sexual arousal when contractions force the sperm into the vas deferens. But before that, we should first define the vast external structure, which is the scrotum. The scrotum is the pouch-like sac of the skin that hangs behind the penis. This is the one that covers the testicles. And of course, when it is hot, the scrotum expands, and when it is cold, it contracts. So this is for the control of the temperature in order for the sperms inside the testicles not to die. Now we are finally in the internal organs, or simply the organs that are also called as accessory organs, which play a big part of the male reproductive system. These organs work together to facilitate reproduction and sexual function, and namely, this system assists in producing sex hormones to initiate puberty and enables a person to produce and transport sperm. Now, first, we have the vas deferens, which is a long muscular tube that travels from the epididymis to the pelvic cavity just behind the bladder. It transports mature sperm to the urethra in preparation for the ejaculation. And when we say preparation for the ejaculation, the mature sperm should pass through the small vesicles first, which are sac-like pouches that are responsible for the fluid that makes up most of the volume the males ejaculate, or simply semen, which allows the sperm to be motile. Now, the matured and motile sperms will then be nourished by a walnut-sized structure that's called the prostate glands. With, of course, now the motile and the matured sperms is prepared, it then goes through the ejaculatory ducts, which delivers them to the urethra. And now, the urethra is already lubricated with the bulbourethral glands, which are the ones that produces slippery fluid that lubricates the urethra and to neutralize any acidity that may be present due to residual drops of urine in the urethra. Lastly, we have the urethra, which delivers the sperm, now semen, to the outside of the male's body through its urethral opening. Well, the urethra is supposed to be part of the urinary system of the human body. Well, but in male, it has additional function of again expelling the semen while the male reach orgasm. Now let's take a quick recap on the pathway of the sperm to the outside of the body. First, the sperm is being spermatogenesized in the testicles, which will then become matured in the epididymis, and because of the contractions during the sexual intercourse, the matured sperms will then be passing through the vas deferens and will then be utilized in the seminal vesicles. After such, they will go through the ejaculatory ducts for them to be nourished by the prostate gland. After such, they will be secreted through the urethra that is being already lubricated by the bulbourethral gland, or simply the bulb that's meant for the urethra. And in the glands of the penis, they will be ejaculated through the urethral opening. So basically, let's just put it simple. From the external to internal to external again. Now here's the common diseases or conditions in the reproductive system. First, we have the erectile dysfunction, or simply the inability to make the penis erect. In layman's term, this is also called as impotence. Now we have the prostate cancer. The prostate cancer targets the prostate gland as the name suggests itself. Well, it is because of some tumors and infections. Lastly, we have this testicular cancer, which is caused by the lumps in testes, and it is rare but most commonly affects young individuals. Now, how to keep the male reproductive system healthy? Of course, we have five main tips. First, you have to regularly screen for STDs. Second, practice good hygiene. Third, maintain a healthy lifestyle. Fourth, quit smoking. Quit smoking. Lastly, we have visit your doctor.
Hi, a pleasant day to everyone. This is Hanna Mae and today I will be discussing about the female reproductive system. So the first topic will be all about the female reproductive internal organs. Second, the female reproductive external organs. Lastly, the common reproductive health concerns for women. Now, let's start with the female internal genital organs. So as you can see, the female internal genital organs include the vagina, the cervix, the uterus, the ovaries, and the fallopian tubes. So let's start with the vagina. So the vagina is a hollow muscular tube that extends from the vaginal opening to the uterus. And because it has muscular walls, the vagina can expand and contract. And this ability of the vagina to become wider or narrower allows it to accommodate something as slim as a tampon and something as wide as a baby. So the vagina's muscular walls are actually lined with mucous membranes which keep it protected and moist. So what we need to remember is that generally the vagina serves three purposes. One, it is where the penis is inserted during sexual intercourse. Two, it is the pathway or the birth canal through which a baby leaves a woman's body during childbirth. And three, it is the way through which menstrual blood leaves the body during period. So next we have here the cervix. So the cervix has actually strong, thick walls. And the opening of the cervix is actually very small. That means it is not even wider than a straw, which is why a tampon can never get lost inside a girl's body. But during childbirth, the cervix can expand to allow a baby to pass. And as you can see sa picture, the cervix is the lower part of the uterus and it can be seen during a pelvic examination. And just like the vagina, the cervix is also lined with mucous membrane. But the distinction is the mucous membrane of the cervix is smooth. Now, we have here the uterus. So the uterus, this thick-walled upside-down organ, is also called the womb. And did you guys know that the uterus contains some of the strongest muscles in the female body? And yes, the main function of the uterus is to sustain a developing fetus. Next are these two organs that lie to the upper right and upper left of the uterus, and these are called the ovaries. So the ovaries produce, store, and release eggs into the fallopian tubes in the process called ovulation. So the ovaries are also part of the endocrine system due to the fact that they produce female sex hormones such as estrogen and progesterone. Now we are down to the last organs, the fallopian tubes. So as you can see, these narrow tubes are attached to the upper part of the uterus. So these serve as pathways for the ova or the egg cells to travel from the ovaries to the uterus. And normally, the fertilization of an egg occurs in the fallopian tubes, and then the fertilized egg moves to the uterus where it implants to the uterine lining. So now let us proceed to the female external genital organs. So makikita nyo sa picture itong labia majora, labia minora, Bartholin's glands, and clitoris. So ito sila, these are the four major external structures. And as a whole, ito ay tinatawag na vulva, which means covering, kasi it covers the opening to the vagina and other reproductive organs inside the body. So as you can see, itong Bartholin's glands, they are located beside the vaginal opening. And one thing that we need to know about the Bartholin's glands is that they secrete a thick fluid that supplies lubrication for intercourse. And ito namang small, sensitive protrusion is called the clitoris. So the clitoris is just like the penis kasi it is very sensitive to stimulation and it can also become erect. And although it has no significant function in reproduction, it is known as the main pleasure center for females during sex, and it has more nerve endings than anywhere else in the body. Next, itong labia majora, which means large lips. So this enclose and protect the other external reproductive organs, and they can be compared to the scrotum in males. And they also contain sebaceous glands which produce lubricating secretions. Ito namang labia minora, which lie just inside the labia majora, surround the openings to the vagina and the urethra. So what gives the labia minora a pink color is the rich supply of blood vessels. But take note that the skin of labia minora is very delicate and it can become easily irritated and swollen. And that's it for the female internal genital organs and the female external genital organs. Now let us proceed to the common reproductive health concerns for women. So one common reproductive health concern for women is endometriosis. So this is a disease in which the endometrial tissue that normally grows inside the uterus grows outside of the uterus. And the main symptom is pelvic pain, which may range from mild to severe. And the causes of this disease are not certainly known, but it has been suggested that it results from mutations in several genes. And the most common treatments are medications to control the pain, and surgery to remove the abnormal tissue. So another common reproductive health concern is cervical cancer. So this occurs when the cells of the cervix grow abnormally. And globally, cervical cancer is the second most common type of cancer, which is next to breast cancer, and it is the fourth most common cause of cancer death. And that would be all for my report. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe.